All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 51 of TCP Trading Camp Pod. We've got another phenomenal guest for you guys this evening. Really excited to get into this episode. We're about to hit what is called an episode that's going to give someone the TCP effect. So I'm really excited. So we got somebody who's a bit more low key, as low key as they come nowadays and fit into it. Anybody who's got any talent typically has a shit ton of followers. But our guest this evening, I think, is still under the radar. So really, really excited to get his message out, to show you guys what he's all about, and more importantly, to get to know him personally, because this is going to be my first conversation with him. So excited, as I mentioned, for tonight's episode. Noah, what's going on, brother?
Alejandro, what's good? Like you mentioned, John doesn't have the biggest following. I think that when you talk about sort of like under the radar, we look at, the talent that some of these people have who have like 40, 50, 60,000 followers. And then you look at the talent John has and you see the discrepancy and you're like, how does that make sense, right? This is a super talented guy, a bit less well known. And I think that that's going to change just based off of the guy's skill set and his work ethic. It's inevitable. So I'm excited to be a small part of that tonight, hopefully, and get to share a story.
Yes, sir. So without further ado, we've got Pogue Trading, John B. What's going on, brother? How you doing?
How's it going, guys? Excited to be here. I've been listening since day one, so this is really cool to get on here and talk with you guys.
That's sick, man. That's sick. That's the second week in a row now, because Brocco said the same thing. He was like, I've been listening to you guys for a minute. So very, very cool that it's come full circle, and privileged to have you on, honestly, because you have a lot to provide now for our listeners and just the TCP community, the King Cap community. So we're excited to dive into what it is that you're doing, because I've been seeing some crazy stuff out of you, man, especially this past week. What is this, like 5 straight 5-figure days or something crazy like that? Like you're just fucking, you're taking off, man. It's impressive. I'm excited to do the interview, because I'm like, what is this guy doing? Like that's really what it is. And that's, so you've got like 7,000 followers right now. So everybody remember this when the episode comes out. He had 7,000 followers. It's not going to be, you're not going to be under 10K for too much longer, because I think you're really you're on your way to doing something special. So excited for you, and I know it's gonna be well deserved, because you really got, you got the juice, man. But before we get into the trading, before we get into the 5-figure days, before we get into all that craziness, let's start by talking about your trading background, your trading story. How did you get involved in the markets to begin with?
Cool. Yeah, I appreciate the kind words, man. So basically, I'm from California. I grew up just, small town, football town. That's all we really did. So I didn't have any plans to go to college. I never really liked school. So my plan, I always thought I was going to go to the NFL, man. My whole life, that was what I was going to do. Obviously, that didn't happen. So right after high school, I just went straight to work in construction and didn't really have a plan. You know what I mean? It was just regular construction jobs. I was doing underground construction, laying pipelines like 20 feet underground, in the heat, covered in dirt and mud, and it was just shitty, man. And so I went and I ended up moving from there and got into the millwrights union, which is a really good job. I was a welder. I was in a union, had 401k, a pension, all the good stuff, but it never just, I always felt like I had something more in me. You know what I mean? I was always looking for something else to do. Because I'm also a dad, I'm married with a kid, and I was doing 7/12s. I mean, at one point I did 12-hour days, 7 days a week for 4 months straight. So I was just working my life away, man. And it was just, I was just like, man, I don't know if I could do this forever. And just missing all that time with my family, the money I was making didn't add up with never being home, it's not worth it. And I grew up with my dad doing that same thing, never being home, just gone working. So I was like, man, I don't want my kid to have that same situation. I want to make it to his games, be able to coach him, be able to be there, whenever I want. So I was basically just looking for things to get into that could change my situation. I mean, I was looking to Amazon FBA, like buying pallets and reselling them. I was just doing research on anything. When 2020 rolled around, I'm not sure how exactly I came around a FinTwit, but somehow I found myself on FinTwit, an Atlas, just like everybody else, I feel like. So I was just watching all these people, making this life changing money, this money that like to me was like, I didn't even believe it at first. I was like, there's no way this is real. Like these people are making, 20, 30, $50,000 in a day. So I was just watching them and I just started studying. I knew that there wasn't really an opportunity for me to like actually trade at the time because like I said, I was working so many hours. But I was just like on my lunch breaks, on my way to work, I was listening to podcasts about stocks and investing. And then I'd come home, I'd leave my house for work at like 3 in the morning. I wouldn't get home until like 8 or 9 at night. Long days, man, because I drove 2 hours each way. But I'd at least get about an hour in every single night of just studying something, watching YouTube videos, going through people's posts on Twitter, like seeing the plays that they did. I didn't even really know what they were doing, but I was watching them, just I was sort of like obsessed with it. Like I felt like this could be, maybe that way out that I've been looking for. So eventually I was like, all right, well, I'm going to throw some money in an account and start trading. I did that when I took my first trade last year and I think it was like July or something. It was a AHT. I'm sure you guys remember that one.
Yeah.
Um, and I made like I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just taking somebody's call out, and I think I started with like 5K, and I just put all of it into the one play. I was just watching it go up while I was working. I was like, I'm a fucking genius. Like this is so easy. I was like, why haven't I been doing this for longer? So eventually I ended up like, making my money on that, taking it out, and then I put it into the next play. And that one didn't work out and I lost like half of that money, and I was like, oh, okay, like because something happened while I was working. And I was like, well, this doesn't really work. I can't really trade while I was at work. And I tried doing options like on the job and I didn't realize that you could get cooked on them in 5 minutes of not looking at your phone. So I was losing money like that, and I was like, well, eventually I figured that I think I've talked to you about this on Twitter, Alejandro. I would go in the porta potty every day at 6:30.
Yeah.
We started work at like 6. Everybody knew that I was going to be gone for like 15, 30 minutes. So I started trading the opens every day. And I was actually having like really good success with it, trading options on like the mega caps or SPY. And I didn't even really like know what I was doing. Like I did all that studying for like a year, but when it comes down to it, you could study all you want, but having zero screen time, what I mean? It's a whole different story. But eventually, after like a few months of doing that, I started like consistently making like a few $100 a day in like those 15 minutes. And then sometimes I'd make more than I was going to make that entire day at work. So I was like, what am I doing here? Working 12 hours away from my family and I'm making this money in 15 minutes. Like, this is something that I really got to like think if I could really do this consistently, this could be life changing for me. Um, so eventually, like 2 months later, it was actually October of last year. I got an opportunity to take some time off work. And I just was basically like, well, this is it right here. Like, I'm going to full send it. I'm going to give it my shot and see if I can make this work. And it was, scary because I have a family to support. My wife, gave me the approval, put her trust in me and, let me give it a shot. So I started last year in October. I basically, just was like, all right, I'm full time all day long staring at the screens. I'm going to give this, 100%. So I actually started doing really well. I didn't really have a defined strategy or nothing like that. I was essentially, a brand new trader. I just had a bunch of studying under my belt, but no actual execution or screen time, watching the markets move and stuff like that. But I did really well for like a month and probably 2 months. And I brought my account from like 5K to like 15. And, I was like, I was paying my bills with it, like barely getting by, but, it was working. I felt like I was getting better. And I got a little cocky. And that was when all of the like the earnings plays were all over Twitter, people getting thousands of percents, every other day they were doing straddles on earnings plays. So I was like, well, I'm gonna do a straddle on Amazon earnings and I'm gonna get rich overnight and then I'll be good. Um, newbie mistake, which I kind of am glad that I went through it, because then never not to do that shit again. But I ended up doing a straddle on Amazon, and I put like 70% of my account or something into it, and it gapped up like crazy, like $400. And I remember like telling my wife, like, we're gonna make like $80,000, like we're set, you know what I mean? All excited. Come back in the morning, and I think both positions, one was at zero and one was at like minus 96%. So all that money was gone overnight. I didn't have any idea, like how they really worked, and the implied moves and shit. I was just gambling. So at that point, I was kind of down, and I lost like a few thousand more dollars. I was down to like my last $1,600. Um, and I just kind of sat there and looked at myself. And at this point, I already loved this. And um, I've I've never really been a quitter, or somebody to think like, I see people doing this all day online, so like there's no reason why I can't do it. You know what I mean? So I was like, I sat there, I was like, either I'm gonna, you're gonna be a quitter, or you're gonna be a fucking winner, and you're gonna make this happen. So I kind of just took a break off of like any Discord. I decided to just like not take anybody's calls or nothing like that. I was like, I need to figure out a strategy for me. So I did like a month and a half of only trading SPY. I had seen some people talking about it on Twitter, like all you need is SPY and you can be a profitable trader.
When was this about? Would you say, like, when was this where you
This was
decided?
like March. It
Okay.
was like March, I believe. Maybe end of February, March. Yeah. So I was like, well, I'm just going to trade SPY. I'm going to figure out something that works for me. Because at the time, my biggest problem was chasing plays. I'd see plays happening, and I wasn't quick enough to get in them. But I would have so much FOMO that this play could go crazy. I don't want to miss it. And then the second you get in, it reverses on you. And I'm like, I knew I shouldn't have done that, but I didn't have those emotions in control yet. I was still an emotional trader, letting them drive my trades, because my whole idea was not that I needed a consistent strategy. It was just that I want to make a bunch of money fast. You know what I mean? So I went and for like a month and a half, man, I just traded SPY, and I just watched SPY. I didn't look at any other stock, and I kind of stayed off Twitter and the Discords, because I didn't want that FOMO of seeing other traders posting these huge percent gains and stuff. And I kind of just figured out a strategy using supply and demand, and it just seemed to really work for me. And I didn't have it dialed in completely yet, but that's when I kind of figured out, like, this is a style that can work for me. Just price action trading, just watching the price and the volume and using supply and demand. And that ended up being my edge. And I went from there, man. Like I said, I was almost at zero on my account, and I locked in and turned it around, and here I am today.
Awesome, dude. Awesome. I mean,
Crazy story.
your story itself is inspiring as hell. I
Honda,
mean,
before you go, I just want to say, if you're in construction and you're listening to this podcast, that's two in a row now. That's two in a
yeah,
row that are in construction, listen to this podcast religiously, and somehow figured it out and are now super successful. Just putting that out there.
Might be a thing.
there's no excuse.
Yeah,
There's
I
no
heard
excuse.
Bracco's last week, and I was like, damn, like really similar story. This guy's kind of saying all the stuff I was gonna say.
Yeah, crazy.
That's cool, man.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Honda.
dude. Well, first the porta potty thing is hilarious, because that's how we like. That's funny. That's like, I think the only DM conversation we have is like talking
Yeah,
about us like pretending to be in this to pretend to take a shit and we're just trading like the bell at the open. But yeah, I was doing the same stuff, dude. And like when you're working a full time job, you're looking for any opportunity. And listening to your story, I could relate to it so much, because it's like when you're working full time, you get a taste of the success that you can have in the market. It's bad, but immediately you start thinking about like, dude, what if I can do this every day? Like, what if I could double this and then do that every day? And you're just like, you're looking for excuses or times like during the day to take a look at the market. Dude, I remember like when I was working, one example. So it was probably 20 fucking degrees out in New York, and I was up in a building that was under construction because I was doing engineering. I couldn't even feel my hands. Like literally could not feel my hands. It was the coldest day ever. I don't even know why they had us out there working. But here I am, like trying to trade on Weeble. Like I remember the trade. It was Piton. Like I played Piton puts, and I made like 20% on the puts, and I was freezing. And I'm like, what am I doing right now? I'm like, I am so hooked on this shit. Like that is
Yeah.
when it's like that passion for the markets alone that can take you so far. And I think that every successful trader, not that I think, like I know that at least at some point, whether it's over the course of like 6 months, a year, like some people don't trade their entire lives, but you got to at least have like that passion to keep you going because it gets really tough. And in your story, you talked about okay, you basically had to take a massive bet on yourself. And also, kudos to your wife who trusted in you and had the faith in you to be successful. That says a lot about her and your family. I mean, that's just because for us, I quit my job. Noah quit his job. We're 23
I
years
never had
old.
a job.
Noah never had a job. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You never. This guy. This guy.
Straight out of
Well, he
college.
was in school. Well, yeah, he was in school. So I guess like what you never like looked for a job, but still betting on yourself.
Yeah,
And
same thing,
Same
essentially.
yeah,
concept.
that's the
Yeah.
main theme here. That's where I was going. But so you take that bet on yourself, and it's like, okay, well, I still have my degree. I still have like a little less than a year of experience. Like if all goes to hell, if something goes really bad, I have that to fall back on. I don't have a family. I don't have any kids to support. For you, man, like that is literally the definition of like back against the wall. Either you make it happen or like that's like the no plan B type shit. Like that's legit, man. And I have a lot of respect for you for having that belief in yourself to get something like that done. And I guess now we can talk about what it is that you're doing today. And I mentioned earlier you're having these massive days now. So there's a gap in your story from, you started trading supply and demand and that started working to now you're making, more money than I'm sure previously you could have ever imagined. So what has been the shift? Like what did your trading look like from you started trading supply and demand and that started working to now you've sized up and you're making money that is legit.
Yeah, man, and like you said, though, shout out to my wife, bro. It wasn't easy for sure, but couldn't have done it without her. But so I started just trading supply and demand, and so basically I use supply and demand, 8 and 21 EMAs, and that's really it. I've been incorporating intraday fibs. If we make a quick move and we're bouncing, I'll throw it from high to low, and I like that golden zone, the 0.618 and 782, and I use those as well. But my whole thing when it really changed for me, man, was when I realized that I was making it too hard. I was trying too many strategies. I was throwing too many indicators up, and I had to realize that I really had to kind of dumb it down and just trade the price action and the volume. And if like people make trading too hard, I feel like, and it's as simple as you make it. I always say that. So I don't try to predict anything. I'm not putting theses on where the market's going to go tomorrow because I could give two shits less at all. I'm going to make money either way. When I go the night before and I do my charts, I have literally no bias of which way it's going to go. I'm putting my supply and demand zones on, and that's it. And I'm going to sit there and watch the price and react to it. And I think that a lot of people, I mean, we all know that the bias is, completely get in your way and can hinder your trading. But that's what's really took me to the next level, man, was just making it simple and not trying to watch every stock in the market. When you're in a community like you guys are as well, you know that there's going to be a bunch of plays being called out. Different traders, have different strategies, and you guys are all talking, throwing out plays here and there. And then you see people on Twitter doing these plays and stuff. I watch SPY, which is like kind of my specialty. I trade it every day. SPX especially. It's like where I made like probably at least half of my money is solely on SPX 0 dates. It's like my favorite thing in the world. But
Whoa.
I watch those, and
We're gonna
then
get
I
into
watch.
that because that's like the opposite of that's like the cardinal sin now on Fintway. It's like don't trade 0 DTE
No, yeah,
SPX.
let him.
We'll get into it.
We'll
Yeah.
definitely, yeah, we'll definitely get into that for
Yeah,
sure.
people
Go
are
ahead.
moving away from him a lot, actually, and I kind of like it. I
Yeah,
have been too. I'll mention that too. But so I watched Spy, and then I'm watching Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and Meta on a separate screen, and I have my zones on all of those as well. So those just give me my confluence in my Spy trades. You know, like say Apple and Microsoft are both entering into a supply zone at the same time as Spy. It's just going to give me more conviction, you know, that I mean Apple really moves Spy, and so does, you know, on top of all these other names. So if they're all looking like they're going to make the exact same move, then of course, you know, I might go a little heavier in that trade on Spy rather than if it's just you know, sometimes Spy is entering one of my zones, but I see Apple just broke out of a supply zone and is getting volume to the upside, then I'm going to take that into consideration, you know.
for sure.
But yeah, man, that's really, I just keep it simple. I watch the mega caps, the biggest holdings in Spy, and you know, just try to be green every day, man.
Yeah, so I have two questions for you. First, I want to really dive into the supply demand. I know that's your primary trading strategy, and I'm sure that our listeners and those who follow you really want to learn some more about that. So, where did you sort of learn how to trade supply demand? What does that look like for you? Sort of like what's your process around supply demand trading on SPY?
I'm not really too sure about how I found it, but I do always give credit when people say, like, how'd you learn how to draw them? I saw a dude, Lunar Aces, on Twitter. I'm not sure how I found his video, but one day I came across his video on how to draw them. And I just really liked it. So I went back on my charts and I started drawing them like from that video. I was like, wow, this is nice because I've never really been like a key levels guy for me. They never really worked just because I mean, you know how it is. You like, there's all the things on Twitter over this level. You grab calls, and then, you know, it goes right over that level and completely
Crazy,
rug pulls you. And
crazy.
people just don't know that that's actually a supply zone. So,
Mhm.
like, for my style of trading, those like watch list things is like the complete opposite of what I would do because I'm grabbing puts there when other people are trying to grab calls for a breakout. I guess it's just different, you know, breakout traders or, you know, supply and demand. But I just figured that I figured out that it worked for my style, and it gave me one of the biggest things that it helped me with was having a defined stop, because you can enter that trade once you get into your zone. Obviously, I only enter. I get this question a lot, like how do you know when to enter? For me, I'm just analyzing the volume that's coming in. So I have the volume bars that show you. It's not just going to go to the color that the candle closes. It's going to show you the buying and selling in each candle.
Are you a 5 minute guy or are you a 1 minute guy?
Not 1 minute. I do 10 minute and 3 minute side by side. So I'm seeing the bigger picture on the 10 minute, and then I'm analyzing the volume on the 3 minute, and that's you know like where I'll see the volume on those smaller time frames. You know if those sellers are stepping up in those supply zones or buyers and demands. But like I was saying, it gives you that once you enter, you don't have any question of where you're going to get out of that trade. If you break your zone, you're out. There's no questions asked because essentially then we should be moving up to that next zone where there's liquidity. So I was kind of always a person where if I was wrong, I hate losing, man. So I'd be a person that would hold my winners, and I'd be over there draw like going back on the chart, finding more, you know, like, oh, there's another support here, maybe it'll bounce there. And then it breaks that. And I'm like, well, you know, there's another one down here. I was that kind of guy, you know. So for me, this was just like, boom, there's you're wrong right here, and you get out. There's no questions asked. So just from a risk management standpoint, it helped me a lot there. Um, so I liked that aspect of it too. And it's just one day I just started seeing it, man. They say that you always see that like one day after you know so much screen time, it'll just click. And I swear, I remember the day it just kind of clicked, and I just started seeing, being able to see the moves happen and kind of predict it a little differently than I was before.
I love that with the defined risk reward because I mean, I will play, sort of similar. Like, I don't call them supply demand zones. I just call them like support resistance zones. It's really kind of the same like concept. But I think one really key aspect of playing the zone as opposed to the level is that oftentimes it's not going to be like to the cent, right? So particularly as a newer trader, if you say, okay, I want to the stock's trading at 24, when it gets to 25, I want to get short. And it's at 24.90 and you start getting anxious. You're like, well, if it reverses here, like what's going to happen? Like, I'm not going to be in the play. I get FOMO. So let me add a little earlier, XYZ. I think when you have the zone, it gives you a little bit more, I guess it just gives you a little bit more margin for error, right? It says, okay, like it's
Yeah.
not just going to be this $25 level, 24.90 up to 25.1. All of that is resistance. So, maybe scale in as you get into that supply zone or look at volume, like you said, right? Like, so you have a little bit of more margin for error, which I think as a newer trader, really trying to decide when am I going to press that button to, buy these puts or buy these calls, that can be really challenging. And I think supply and demand is really beneficial for that aspect.
Yeah, exactly. I agree, man. And like you said, they're not always like the technical definition of supply and demand zones. A lot of times, like you said, they're just really support and resistance zones where you just go back on the chart and you see a bunch of wicks in this specific area, whether it's up or down. Every time price gets into this zone, it reacts rapidly. So I'm putting a zone there too, and it might not be an actual supply and demand zone, but it's a zone that I know when the price gets there, I'm likely to see a move out of it. So I like those as well.
Yeah, man. I love how you said like one day it just made sense for you. I think that a lot of traders have that connection. For me, it wasn't necessarily like that one day, but I'm really happy with my trading when I know the scenarios where I don't want to be trading. Like, not so much even like predicting what's going to happen next. It's like if right now I'm so comfortable with my trading and I feel that, I've learned so much that I can watch something and I'm like, I don't want to trade right now because I think that my idea, I have an idea, but the chances of it actually working like are pretty low, right? Like when you're first learning to trade, it's like you see so many different opportunities where you can enter a trade, and you're like, oh, well, this could be a possible setup where I could possibly profit. But as you mature as a trader, it's like, all right, I've seen this so many times now. The chances of it actually working aren't too high. So now I'm just going to play the setups that I know have a high probability of working. And by listening to your story, it sounds like that's exactly what happened to you. Like you were trying a bunch of different stuff and you were maybe making it too complicated. And then you found supply and demand. And it's like, that's it. And I love hearing every trader's story about how they became profitable or what worked for them, because every single person is different. It's so crazy, and like it's kind of cliche. People say it a lot. It's like there's a million different ways that you can make money. Just like do what works for you. But it's so true. Like you have to have that confidence in what you're doing as a trader. Once it starts to work, understand that it doesn't have to be the same thing that the next guy is doing. You mentioned it. We're in Discord communities. There's 7 traders in our Discord. All 7 of us trade a different way. Like there's trades that other traders take where I'm like, where I'm like, what are you seeing? And it works. And it works for them repeatedly. It has to work with your brain. That's like the most important thing. When you're trading well, it makes sense. Like you should not be surprised when you win. And you also shouldn't be surprised when you lose. You should understand. You should be able to clearly define. Supply and demand is one of the easiest ways to do it, because it's like, all right, if you draw your supply zones, you draw your demand zones, right? If you break down, you're out of the trade. If you're trading in a demand zone, if you're looking to play calls, if you're looking to play puts and you're in a supply zone and you crush through it and you're out, clearly defined what's going on there, clearly defined. So I think that supply and demand itself is a really, really good way to trade, because I think that it works for a lot of people. It works for a lot of people's brains. Like some traders have strategies that aren't as clearly defined. It's like some traders are scalpers and they just trade off feel. I'll talk about Snipes, Stock Sniper, who's in our Discord. I've been trading alongside him for a year now, and quite honestly, I still have no idea like what like he just like I don't know. He's
It
scalping on
just
the
does
one
it.
minute chart. Like he just does it and he rips. Like he just rips.
Yeah.
But I'm like, dude, I don't know. what you're
Yeah,
doing,
man.
like just not my thing. But
Yeah, I had so a big part of my success was getting on the bus with NASA. You guys have interviewed him twice. You guys,
yeah,
I mean, everybody knows him, I think. But same thing, like you're saying, man. Everybody's different because I mean, he's probably the best trader I know and that I've been around, but I cannot trade like him. And
yeah,
for the longest time, I was trying to, and I was wanting to see what he was seeing, you know. And you know how I mean, dude's called too many 10 baggers this year to count. I've never gotten in one of them because
yeah,
when he would call a play, my brain just wouldn't see what he was seeing, and I'd be like, wow, this, you know, I'm not seeing this. This doesn't really make sense. So I don't want to risk my money with it. But then they'd go 1,000%. And I'd
yeah,
sit there and beat myself up and I'd be like, how did I not see this? Like he saw it. Why can't I, you know? And I just had to kind of realize that, I mean, dude's an animal. He watches 80 stocks at one time. He sees every move that's going to happen. For me,
yeah,
my brain does not work like that. I can't process that much information on that many different charts. So I had to just realize like people trade differently. I don't have to try to trade like him, or you know what I mean? And I can't be mad at myself that I can't figure it out because like you said, everybody's different. I mean, there's people that I mean, I see their charts and I can't even see the candles because there's so much stuff on it. But if they're
yeah,
profitable, that's all that matters at the end of the day.
yeah. And then when you do find what works for you, like again, going back to the confidence thing, like stick to it. Stick to it. It's not easy to find like that thing that makes sense in your brain and helps you make money day in and day out. Like I've now found a strategy that I'm like completely set on, and I have people trying to like people like DMing me like use every so out of the 7 of us in the Discord, 6 people, maybe not snipes, I'll say 5 people use fibs. I've never thrown a fib on my chart, not once. Like I see everybody taking trades with them. I see how powerful they are. Like fibs are great, whatever. I'm not shitting on fibs, but I'm like, I'm making money. The way I'm making money is literally so simple in my brain. It makes so much sense. I'm like, anybody who tries to change that, I'm like, don't even talk to me. You know what I mean? It's like I don't want to add your strategy. Like I don't like respect whatever you're doing, but I'm just gonna stay in my lane. I'm gonna keep brain anti-fib trade. Good. Yeah. Whatever, dude. Like I don't it's true. It's true.
Tugging down the whole
I don't fuck
squad
with
right
fibs.
now.
I don't fuck with fibs. No, I mean like fibs are great. Fibs are great.
I don't
I just
fuck with
rely on
fibs.
like I'll be like, Noah, do you have a fib here? Like if I ever like I don't know. But you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like if it works for you, like
Yeah, it's very interesting because like I think there's a fine line, right? Where there's like I agree with what Alejandro said that if something works for you, you need to really focus on that, right? And I think what the point that I get out of that is like when something works for you, just put all of your effort into trying to make that as good as it can be. And then you can go out and sort of look at some of the other things. Cause I feel like even with the fib thing, for example, right? You wouldn't be able to integrate fibs into what you do. And like, not that you really do, but like, I mean, you sometimes will ask for levels and every now and again, but like, I don't even think you'd be able to do that unless you had really honed in and really got confident on the system, right? It's like you have to have your core bread and butter thing that for John B, it's supply and demand that you really nailed down, right? And
yeah.
then you can go ahead and maybe look at other things and say, okay, how can I enhance this? Because my thing is like, I completely agree with that thought process that you need to really hone in on what works. But at the other time, at the in the same vein, it's like by cutting yourself off to other things, are you just not taking in additional information that could help you make your system even better,
I
right?
think the difference is supplementing too early before true. It's basically what you're saying
Exactly.
before truly understanding why what you're doing even works, and tweaking that and getting it to where you want it to be. Then you can introduce other things that may be able to supplement what you're already doing. Versus you just found the 9 and the 20 EMA and now you're trading with fit. That's like every like new trader's process. It's like, okay, you found the 9 and 20 EMA and then you found fibs and then you found this and that and like you're using MACD and RSI. It's like just chill. Like
Yeah,
just
but like
figure
even
out
then
what
though,
works first, and then because there'll be less of an appetite to even want to do the other shit because you're like you know what's working now. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I agree, man. I think it's totally true, but everybody's different. But I think if you can hone down on that one thing, like you guys are saying, that you can be profitable with consistently, then you start adding tools to your belt, and you'll see the market different. If you know at the end of the day you can rely on that strategy that you've developed, so it'll let you be a little bit more open to adding those tools to your belt. But if you're trying to do it in the beginning, like I was, I was trying every strategy in the world while I was still trying to learn the other one, and it was all on my screen, and it was just a shit
Yeah.
show. So I completely agree with that. And then, like I was saying, I only traded SPY for like probably 2-3 months straight. But now, after like honing in on that and really being able to, like, I feel like I can really just like if I took all these off my screen, like took the EMAs off, took the spine demand zones off, I can almost guarantee that I'd be profitable just looking at the candles. That's how I feel because I really digest like the price action and the volume. So like I'm so confident in that when I just add these EMAs and supply and demand, it's just like it's adding to that skill set that I already developed. And
Right.
I mean, right now I feel like I'm unstoppable, man. I'm on a
Yeah. Hell
little
yeah.
green streak. I was telling Rocky the other day, I was like, I'm gonna get smacked in the face hard soon here or something. Because like it's just
You
one of
think you're
those
too
times
hot?
where yeah, everything's just working, man. I mean, like
Yeah.
I think the other day I was in like now I watch like 9 charts at a time. Um, I was in, I think the first 5 minutes, I was in 5 different trades, three of them
Oh my
short and
god.
5 of them long, and they all went 40 to 60% in like the first 10 or 15 minutes. And afterwards I was just like, holy shit, like how was I even doing that? But it was just I'm able to recognize it all and digest it all when, thinking
That's
back
sick.
5 months ago, that would have been insane for me.
Yeah, man. All right, so we touched on it a little bit earlier. We promised we were going to talk about zero DTE. So let's get into it. It's like it's the cardinal sin, right? Don't trade the zero DTE. We were talking about it on Spaces. Don't trade zero DTE. Buy time on your contracts. I think it took me just getting boned repeatedly by zero
Yeah.
DTE before I stopped. But dude, so what is it? What is it that you're doing that's different from everybody else? Because I mean, trading options contracts, expiring that same session, that's a losing game. I think everybody knows that. So how is it that you're winning?
Oddly enough, if I put it all into my trader sync, I have like a 78% win rate with SPX zero dates.
That's
Um,
insane. That's insane.
I don't know like exactly to say like it's because of this. I think I just like when I'm trading them, I'm not looking for like I'm not trading them to hold them and get those 500 to 1,000% gains. That's not what I'm doing it for. Really, when I'm using, because I'll trade SPY most of the time, but when I'm trading SPX is when like there's a setup that I've seen a million times. It's like I am almost 99% sure that this is gonna happen like right here. And I'm watching it and I'm waiting. And right when it starts to happen, I'll play SPX there. And really all I'm looking for is like a quick 40% in like a minute. And I'll get out. Like I'm not trading SPX for crazy returns. I'm trading it for a nice return very fast, and I'll scale out almost all of my position and just put the last, one or however many even, so I don't lose on that trade. But that's how I'm trading SPX. It's not for some crazy return and to hold it for a Weeble screenshot of 1,000%. Or I'm trading it for I know there's going to be a quick volatile move right here, so I'm going to get an SPX instead of SPY because I can get more premium out of this. And like I said, you get 30, 40, 50% in freaking 20 seconds. I mean, you really can't beat that.
it's such a love hate, man. You know,
Yeah,
it really
really.
it really is because
You gotta
like
pick your spots with it, man. That's all
no,
it is.
I know. It's just like even today, right? Like today's a really good example. I took a trade on I think it was SPY. Yeah. Yeah, it was SPY puts. And like ridiculously confident in the trade and it works out. It was actually a supply demand zone trade, believe it or not. Around like what time was this? Like after we broke the lows and then we came up, retested, and then dumped. And I think I got like 15 or like 20%. And like I sized heavier on it because I went with Wednesday's contracts. And then I wound up getting stopped the rest of it even. And I went back like just for the hell of it. And we've been making a concerted effort over the past like week to really add some more time on the cons as a Discord primarily because we feel, if people are taking our alerts, these 0 days, unless you're on voice with us, like, okay, I'm watching this at this level. Okay, it's getting close. Okay, I'm adding it here. If you're not like on that step by step, you're just getting the alert. It's going to be very hard for you to really get like a similar entry. And so that's why we've been making that effort. And I think it's been working out well for the members because, if you want to get that entry on a further dated con, you can. If you want to take a 0 day, you can. But like for me, it was just like I went back and looked at the cons and the 0 days went like 56, 60%. And I had like 15%. And it was like, I won the trade and I was happy that I won. And, I sized up a little bit because there were Wednesdays. And so, I made a decent profit, but like, damn, there's just something about
Yeah,
that quick.
it's adrenaline, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's
Yeah,
exactly what it is. I think it's like there's something
pure
about like it's too safe. It's too safe. Like I'm taking this
adrenaline.
trade. I know it's gonna work. I'm like,
You're
look,
gonna
look at
make too
this.
much money. You're gonna
Yeah.
make
Yeah, I'm
too
like,
much money. It's gonna be too
I'm like, look at
profitable.
this.
It's
It's
gonna be
gonna be
too
too
easy.
easy.
It's gonna
I
be too
Way
want
too
easy.
easy.
I want that feeling, like in my chest that like if I get this wrong 5 minute
Are you,
candle, I'm down
yo,
30%.
are
I'm
you all
done.
right, dude?
Yeah,
You all
you're a
right?
little scared.
Yeah,
No, I
you're all right.
feel it, man. You
I
wanna be a
want
little
that.
scared where you're hovering over your ladder ready to sell it.
Noah, that sounds like a deep rooted issue you might have to deal with, bro. He's like,
Yeah,
dude,
I should
I
probably
need that like fear of like losing money. No, all
yeah,
right.
I should talk to somebody about that for
So
sure.
you're like, all right, I'm scalping for 40, 50%. Number one, 99% of people don't have the discipline to do that because what immediately happens in your brain when you're up 50% in under a minute? You're like, oh, let me hold for one more minute. I'll be up
Yep.
100%. Another minute, I'll be up 200%. So that alone, crazy amounts of discipline to scalp 0 DTE for 40, 50% because I'm sure I don't even have to ask you. I know for a fact you've scalped for 40% and that shit goes a
And went
thousand
1,000.
percent.
Oh, yeah.
And you're just like, oh man, like I should have
Yeah.
held that one, but you can't. You got to make that decision. It's like, am I going to be a scalper? Am I going to scalp for 40, 50% SPX and just do that boom, 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 boom over and over? Because that one time where you hold on for it to go too far is the time that maybe you let your risk management go out the window. So that's the next thing I wanted to talk about. If
Yeah.
you're scalping for 40, 50%, what does your risk management look like on the other end of the trade?
Well, so the reason I'm able to do that, man, is honestly because I hate more than losing. If you lose a trade, I mean, we all know we're gonna do it. You were just wrong. Like that's fine. But what I really beat myself up with is all the amounts of times that I've been up 40, 20, even 20%, 30%, I mean 100%, and been like, well, I want to hold on for the bigger move, letting that greed get involved. And then all of a sudden you get some kill candle against you. And now you're up from, you were up, 60%. Now you're up 20%. I hate that more than anything in the world because when that's the situation, you actually I can see that money in my account that I had. And then all of a sudden that money's just gone. If you just take a losing trade, I was already prepared to lose that money. But once I was up 60%, I might not have been expecting that. And then all of a sudden it just got taken away when I could have sold and had that money. So for me, that's like my biggest thing is I don't like giving back percents. And I get stopped out a lot, like putting my stops too close and then shit runs like crazy. But I really don't care because I just don't care. Like I'm getting my money and I can do it every single day consistently. So yeah, stuff goes crazy sometimes. But I typically, even when I'm scalping for these, quick percentages, I always leave a few as runners and they go crazy a lot. And that's great. And I love it. But once I'm up 20%, my stops are even, no matter what. I'm never letting a trade go green to red. It doesn't matter if even if the setup's still valid, unless it's like something crazy that I will want to hold on to, I'll cut out an even and I'll just re-enter. Because that's just my biggest thing is giving those back, man. So
Yeah.
So let me ask you though, because on a 0 day in particular, you could get stopped at entry before your idea is invalid. You know what I mean? So like
yeah,
you're you're adding off of supply, you're adding puts, and you get that initial rejection, you're up 20%, you go stop loss at even. It comes back. It didn't even get back to your zone, but because of the theta on the cons, they're below your entry and you get stopped. Is that a situation where like you're looking to get back in, or like how does that work? Or is it
yeah.
just
I
like
mean,
chalk it up as a loss?
most of the time, I mean, every situation is different, obviously, but I'll just get out and I'll re-enter. I mean, literally 5 seconds later if I have to. But my thing is, I'm just not going to take a loss on it. If I'm up, I'm not going to take a loss.
It's like
So
a mental
I'll
thing.
re-enter right away if I have to. But like you guys have been saying, man, like that is my thing is the SPX zero dates, and I still do it every day. But just the last like few weeks, and it's been like kind of a big part of my successes. I've been doing the same thing as you guys is I mean, I never even thought about buying, like Friday expiries on like a Monday or Wednesday. That wasn't even in the game plan. Like I'm buying close to zero data as humanly possible all the time. But lately I've been doing that in some of my bigger zones. I've been adapting that as well. I'll just like triple or double or at least triple my size, and I'll grab 1 day or 3 days of time, and it's been so much stress free. Like I can't believe I haven't been doing this for way longer. Like honestly, I love it now. If I'm in a bigger zone, I mean, you have room to let your play work, and on those little pullbacks, your premium's not getting burnt on a tiny pullback. When it hasn't even touched a 90 MA, but you just lost half your premiums. You can truly just let your trade work and make sure you're still putting in higher highs and higher lows and let that thing ride. So I've been adapting that more into my strategy as well, and I've been loving it.
I think talking to Alejandro on spaces, we literally just touched on this like right before we hopped on the pod with you. But like further out cons works better, like for my style and my personality is like there's nothing worse, in my opinion, than being right and not making money. And I was just so tired of like when you're trading 0 days, you really got to nail that entry, right? Particularly on SPX, like you gotta get it, within like 20 cents really, or else you're gonna be down like pretty fat on the cons. And so, unless you're trading with a system where you have no stop and it's just what happens happens. If you're trading with a stop loss and like a fairly tight risk management framework like I was trying to do, I would just get tired of like CPI just came in at fucking 9%. The market's going down and I'm not making money. When we had that after Jackson Hole is what did it for me. After Jackson Hole, I was like, okay, well, the market's going to trade down. We gapped down 2% and then traded down another 2% intraday. And I made $0. And I was like, well, this can't happen ever again. Like, it can't.
Yeah.
Like, if I know the market's going to go down and I'm sitting here trying to fucking nail a SPY 0 day and not making money, like, why not just buy a week out? And, like, if it goes up, buy some more. Like, I'm that confident that the market's going down. Like, I'm confident in my it's really not even analysis. Like, inflation's 9%. Like, the market's going down. Like, there's no analysis in it. So, like that type of stuff, I feel like is really what like kind of pushed me there. And I think there are definitely times and places where that 0 day risk reward is still attractive for me. Like I definitely don't want to like shit on SPY 0 days because I promise you I'll probably trade one tomorrow. But like I think just like longer term and like for like a more holistic view, especially for a newer trader, like you got to give yourself a chance, I think. And I think that when you're trading 0 days, whether it's particularly SPX or any other name really, right, like on Lotto Friday, I just feel like you're not giving yourself a ton of margin for error, and as a newer trader there's going to be a lot of error. So if you're somebody like John and you've been really grinding and putting in the work and really have a strategy that has a 70% hit rate and you're really confident in it, that makes sense. But like if you're a newer trader still trying to figure it out, my recommendation would be don't get caught up in these 500,000% weekly cards. Take your cons a couple weeks out, buy yourself some more time. And if you're right, the cool thing is you still make money, believe it or not, on contracts that are not weeklies. Like you'll still get paid.
Yeah.
You'll still get paid. Like don't worry. So you know?
Yeah, I agree, man. It's kind of a double-edged sword with that because, if they are a newer trader, they might have a small account, and those further out cons get expensive. But like, I get tons of DMs, man, of people saying that, like, "Hey, I'm a like really new trader. I have a small account. How should I trade SPX?" And I just tell them, "Don't," um,
Yeah.
because, like you said, it's I'll trade SPY in the first few hours, and I have a cushion, and I'll trade it to where if I lose on it because I mean, you could literally enter be down 10% and then go straight down from there. And by the time you get out, you just lost 50% of your position in 30 seconds. It can happen like that. So I tell like any of them, if you're a newer trader or you have even somewhat of a small account, I would say even if your account's under like $3,000, probably I would not be trading SPX at all. It's just they see those big gains and want to turn a little bit of money into a lot, but the risk reward isn't there, especially if you don't have that defined strategy or that system or know how to get those perfect entries. I would recommend just playing. I mean, even grabbing SPY 1 days is still a whole lot better, than or 3 days out. You can still find them that are around a buck, and you're able to let that work. But yeah, I definitely don't think it's for everybody or people trying to learn.
So, John, really quickly, I asked before, and I don't think that you answered. I think we got sidetracked, but your risk management on the downside. So, you're scalping for like 40, 50%. What does your risk management look like when you're trading SPX 0 DTE?
It really so I'm really a guy who I get out like when the chart's telling me typically.
Hmm.
But I'll never I mean, it's hard because I trade SPX a little bit different than anything else. Like I have a little bit more risk on it usually, but on like a typical trade, I mean, I will never let a trade go more than minus 15%, 20 at
Oh, wow.
max. Um, I can't do it, man. I mean, a lot of the
Yeah.
times I even cut it at 10% sometimes. If like I'm looking at the chart and it's wrong, then I'll cut it 10%. I'm not a dude who likes to sit there and hope that it's going to reverse. Or like I said, I got caught up too many times trying to hope for a reversal, adding more resistance points or supports, hoping for the next bounce. So I'm kind of like cut quick when I'm wrong, and I'll take that L because with my system, uh, like I mean, I'll t- typically I can get like a good 60 to 100% or almost every day. So with the system I've developed, I can take 5 losses at 10% and then one trade make up for all of that plus some. So that's kind of so I just cut my losers, I mean, as quick as I can, right when the chart tells me that I might be wrong. And sometimes I cut them too quick and it ends up going in my favor. And it's like shit, I should have held out longer. But I just tell myself most of the times that's not going to work out. When it does, it's like, oh, I should have done this. In hindsight, it's always easier to look back. But at the end of the day, I'd rather take a small loss. I mean, we've all seen that chart where it's for a 30% loss, you need to make up however much on a win, like 60%
Right.
win to make it back. You know what I mean? So it's that doesn't work for me. So I just cut
Yeah.
losers quick, man. And
That's the answer I was looking for, really. Like, it doesn't matter what exactly you're doing. It's like as long as your losers, again, cliche, as long as your losers
yeah,
are smaller than your winners. But it's like so difficult. It's so simple, but it's so difficult. Like how hard is it to cut an SPX 0 DTE at 15%? Like that could be 15 seconds after your entry. Like you have to be that disciplined to, all right, I'm wrong. See ya. On to the next trade. Like that's why it's hard. It's not hard because like you just said it, one winner can make up for five losers, right? So that's not the hard part, right? Winning one out of every six trades and staying profitable is not the hard part. The hard part is can you manage your risk to keep it that way? That's
yeah,
why so many people lose money because of how difficult that is to sit there, especially, what happens when you lose three trades in a row? Let's talk about what happens when you lose five trades in a row,
yeah,
right? Like when you're trading real shitty, that's when it gets out of hand. It's like, oh, I just lost three in a row. Here comes another loser. No, F it. I'm holding on to this one.
exactly.
Your
Yeah,
your weekly gains get wiped, your monthly gains get wiped. Like it's all about discipline. It's just so difficult. It's so easy yet so difficult. But yeah, I mean that you did a really good job at answering my question there. So the last thing I want to ask you about as we wrap up here is any tips for new guys? I know you gave plenty along the way here, but if there was one message you had for new traders, what would that be?
One message. Trying to think of what I would have wanted, man. Probably just like I said, to try to keep it simple and try not to look at this as a route to just get rich quick, because you can get really rich doing this, and it can truly change your life. I mean, it has completely changed my life, and I know just messaging people, helping them out a little bit, they've said it's changed their life a lot. But if you're coming in here just thinking, oh, I see these 1,000%ers, I'm gonna just throw full port it and make a bunch of money overnight. Like I made that mistake and I lost almost my whole account, and that never really works out good. So I'd say just coming in and really focusing on learning. Find a few guys or some people that have experience and a lot of screen time that can really get you over those humps as a newer trader, and really focusing on the discipline. Like you said, that's the biggest thing in the market is the discipline. If you can trade, limit your emotions, I think that's the biggest key that kills every trader. I mean, it was my problem as well. Just bringing my emotions into trades, I lose every time. Once I was able to realize and find a system that helped me take those out, that's when it changed. So I think that's the biggest thing, man.
I love it, man. Thanks for joining us. This is great, dude. Pleasure meeting you, man. This is awesome. Great
Yeah, you guys
conversation.
too, man. I was looking forward to it. Yeah, that was good. And thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
For sure, bro. Appreciate you. Noah, another great episode, man. I'll see you next week for episode 52.
Yep. Thanks again to
Yeah.
John for hopping on, and we'll see you guys next week.